Episode 13. The morning comes quietly to the royal palace, but Lloyd is already awake and already invisible. This is the new normal. Under Grimm's tutoring, Lloyd has been practicing a technique called mana block, which allows him to suppress the enormous aura of magical energy that usually radiates off him like a furnace. What took Grimm a full year to manage at the most basic level, Lloyd has mastered so completely that even Rin and Shiro, standing in the same room, fail to notice him until he speaks. It is exactly the kind of moment that stops everyone in their tracks. Not because it is alarming, but because the gap between Lloyd and everyone else keeps quietly expanding, and nobody knows quite what to do with that. Rin is adjusting to palace life, and she is finding it harder than fighting. Silpha, the head maid, is rigorous, precise, and completely merciless in her standards. Rin came from a world of shadows and poison. She knows how to end a life silently and disappear before the body hits the floor. She does not know how to fold a napkin correctly, and Silpha is very interested in that. The scenes between the two of them have a particular energy, like watching someone try to train a wolf to carry a tea tray. Rin is trying, genuinely, and that sincerity is what makes it funny rather than frustrating. On Lordest Island, the reconstruction is underway. Galilea, the spider chimera who once called this island a battlefield, is now its governor, appointed by Lloyd after Lloyd was given authority to name someone to the role by his father, the king. This is worth pausing on for a moment. Lloyd, 10 years old, magic-obsessed, frequently causing structural damage to every building he enters, has been handed political authority over an island that was recently the site of a demonic siege. His interest in governance appears to be approximately zero. His interest in what the island can offer as a research environment appears to be extensive. He mentions, with complete sincerity, that it will be a great place for research. Galilea simply accepts the responsibility with quiet resolve. The reconstruction is going well. Babylon has stopped by to help. Grimm is there too, and this is where the conversation takes a turn that nobody saw coming. Grimm recommends divine sorcery as protection for the island going forward, a form of magic that channels a kind of holy energy to push back against demonic forces. Galilea and the others are visibly taken aback, because this recommendation is coming from Grimm, who is, as they realize in this moment, actually a demon. The reactions are staggered and wonderful. One character thought Grimm was a flying, talking goat. Grimm takes some time to process that. Divine sorcery, Grimm explains, belongs to the church. To learn it, you have to serve the church, collecting donations, cleaning, reading scripture, singing hymns, praying, until the blessings come. Lloyd's ears sharpen the moment the words leave Grimm's mouth. This is exactly the kind of arcane system he has been waiting to pull apart. He decides immediately he is going to join the church. The only wrinkle is that he was kicked out 2 years ago. Apparently, there was an incident. Lloyd is vague about the details. His friends are not particularly reassured by this vagueness. Babylon is assigned to go with him. Rin, standing in for Silpha who is buried in work, joins as well. And it is clear from the way she phrases it that she wanted to come regardless. The church is a handsome building in the city, and the head of it is a father who remembers Lloyd's face the moment he walks through the gate. The memory is not fond. But before things can escalate, someone intervenes. A young woman named Escher, who greets Lloyd with open warmth and introduces him to the father all over again, as though the past is simply a misunderstanding worth setting aside. There is a dog named Shiro with them, whose performance of being adorable and innocent is so convincing that the father essentially melts on the spot. Shiro is a very accomplished dog. Lloyd gets a second chance. He is assigned simple tasks. He breaks something almost immediately, and this triggers a small crisis, because the item in question, a stained glass piece the father cherishes, is significant. Lloyd moves to confess and apologize personally. Escher watches him, and there is something in the way she watches him that suggests she has known children like him before, determined little figures who do the right thing not because they have to, but because they cannot imagine doing anything else. She talks about what Lloyd was like when he was younger, piecing it together from what she knows, and the picture that forms is consistent. He has always been exactly this person, magic-obsessed and sincere, breaking vases and apologizing for them with complete honesty. The episode's energy shifts when a group of rough-looking figures from Lordest Island arrive, causing trouble outside the church and threatening the upcoming recital. The recital, it turns out, involves Escher and Saria, Lloyd's sister, the fourth princess of the kingdom and a musician of considerable renown. Saria moves through life like music is the only language she actually speaks, which means she sometimes forgets practical things, like her brother's name. It is impressed that she remembers it all. The thugs are not a serious threat to Lloyd. Rin, who has been practicing her control over poison gas, deals with most of them efficiently. Lloyd handles the remainder with a quiet application of Jade's teleportation technique, moving them without confrontation. The recital is saved. That night, Lloyd sits in the church and watches the performance. Escher sings, and Saria plays, and what Lloyd is actually looking at, because of course this is what Lloyd is looking at, is the mana. Something extraordinary is happening in the structure of the magic. The sorcery being cast is unlike anything he has documented before. Not a standard mana signature, not a formula he recognizes, but something shaped like musical notation, geometric and luminous, spreading healing energy across the entire room. It is divine sorcery, operating through ritual rather than calculation. Grimm confirms it. Lloyd's mind is already running at full speed. Then he notices something else. A gaze. Mana-soaked, powerful, and directed at him from above. Not from the ceiling. Higher than that. Lloyd locks onto it with a technique called Shadow Wolf, and without another word, teleports upward, leaving Rin and Babylon in the church wondering what just happened and where, exactly, their prince has gone. What follows Grimm into the sky, far above the clouds, with no idea what they are about to find. Episode 14. Above the clouds, there is a different world, domed in pale light, adrift in something that is neither wind nor silence. It is the place angels call paradise, a separate realm from the human world, normally sealed off from mortal access by what is described as a wall of realms. And standing there, stunned, is one of those angels. His name is Jiriel. He has been leaning over the edge of paradise, watching Escher's performance below with the kind of absorbed attention that he clearly did not want anyone to notice. And then Lloyd arrived, passing through the wall of realms as though it were open air, because apparently it was for him. The collision is not graceful. Jiriel's introduction to Lloyd begins with an impact and a grievance, because the first thing Lloyd did upon entering paradise was collide with something he very much did not intend to. Jiriel recovers his composure with the dramatic speed of someone who is very concerned with how they are perceived. He adopts his most imposing posture. He introduces himself in full. Jiriel, acolyte to the 64 deities of paradise, sacred envoy, celestial servant, and waits for the appropriate expression of awe. Grimm is not impressed. Grimm has been in the presence of genuine power, and Jiriel's presentation does not clear the bar. The exchange that follows is memorable. Jiriel tries for dignified authority. Grimm cuts straight to the point. Lloyd, politely but without ceremony, states exactly what he wants. He is here to learn divine sorcery. Would Jiriel please teach him? This is the wrong framing for Jiriel, who insists that divine sorcery is a gift reserved for those he deems worthy, and that the correct thing for Lloyd and Grimm to do is go home. Then Lloyd demonstrates something that changes the tone of the conversation entirely. He uses a spell, a construction of pure elemental force, and the cracks it produces in the wall of realms are enormous. The question of whether Lloyd belongs here becomes, in that moment, significantly less relevant. Jiriel is not pleased, but he is paying attention. A battle develops. What is interesting about it is not really the power on display, though the power on display is genuinely striking, but rather how Lloyd approaches it. He is not trying to win. He is experimenting. Jiriel produces what he calls Luxa, conjured blades, gleaming and apparently invincible, capable of infinite regeneration. Lloyd is fascinated. He analyzes the construction of the spell in real time, examining its durability, testing its response to different forms of sorcery. Every exchange is a data point. Jiriel, who is fighting with the intention of asserting celestial authority, keeps finding himself analyzed instead. There is a moment when Lloyd attempts an offensive form of Shadow Wolf, the same teleportation technique that Jade once used in battle, refined and adapted. He sends force directly into a target rather than moving himself. The first attempt misses because the timing is off. Lloyd diagnoses the problem out loud with the calm focus of someone solving a geometry puzzle. The spell activates before it arrives, giving the target a window to react. The fix he comes up with is to hold the spell until the absolute last moment, like timing a fuse. He tests it. He refines it. He adjusts. Back on the surface, Rin and Babylon are doing their best to manage the situation, which includes covering for Lloyd's absence, keeping an eye on the tail end of the recital, and dealing with the ambient strangeness of everything happening at once. Babylon, for his part, uses the quiet time to wander the church grounds, and there is a detail here that matters. A smell, faint and wrong, coming from the inner garden. Babylon has the instincts of someone who used to be a professional killer, and those instincts do not switch off. He logs it without acting on it. Back above the clouds, Lloyd has pushed Jiriel's Luxa to the point where the spell's regeneration starts to falter. Jiriel, running low on the mana that sustains his ethereal form, begins to fade. He makes one last assertion of superiority, which does not land. And then, in a turn that captures exactly what kind of person Lloyd is, Lloyd gives Jiriel some of his own mana to help him recover. Not a little, quite a lot. Jiriel had tried to fight him, had not been particularly honest about the limits of his power, and now Lloyd is helping him without being asked. Jiriel is undone by this. He sits with the weight of what just happened. Someone who had every reason to be contemptuous of him instead turned around and offered restoration, and it moves something in him that he has not felt in a very long time. He agrees. He will grant Lloyd divine sorcery. There will be a pact. He extends his hand. The pact has a complication. Jiriel, in the moment of forming it, has a small side plan. He wants to use the connection as a chance to slip into Lloyd's body and visit the surface, which has been off-limits to him. He has been watching Escher and Saria perform from above for so long. This is, on reflection, a catastrophically bad plan. Jiriel's attempt to possess Lloyd lasts approximately as long as it takes for Lloyd's actual mana reserves to register. The volume is so far beyond anything Jiriel had accounted for that the possession attempt barely makes it to his fingertips. Grimm has a word for this. Several words, in fact, none of them kind. Jiriel, chastened and a little overwhelmed, proceeds honestly. He explains how divine sorcery actually works. An angel engraves the mana signature onto the caster's soul, creating a permanent pathway. Ordinarily, the path is activated through ritual, song, dance, some form of expression. For Lloyd, because Jiriel is now bound to him, the path is already active. Lloyd simply has to call with his soul. He does. And what emerges from Lloyd in response to the divine sorcery is not a sword. Jiriel instructs him to try conjuring one. What comes into being instead is something immense and many-winged, blazing with golden light, more architecture than weapon. Jiriel is openly alarmed. Grimm is alarmed. Lloyd, peering at the construction with his head tilted, notes that he was not quite finished. The episode closes on a full view of the thing Lloyd has made. The divine spell Luxa, shaped by his own mana, looking nothing at all like a sword, and very much like what happens when someone with Lloyd's relationship to magic is handed a new system and told to experiment freely. Jiriel, watching it, formally requests permission to stay by Lloyd's side. The situation has exceeded every expectation he had for this visit, and he has no intention of going back to paradise without seeing where it leads. Meanwhile, below, Babylon lingers near the inner garden, still thinking about that smell. Episode 15. The morning after Lloyd's trip above the clouds, the group reconvenes, and things move quickly. Jiriel, who has agreed to remain with Lloyd, is in need of a less conspicuous form. An angel in full celestial presentation is not practical for day-to-day operations in the human world. Lloyd suggests he shrink down to something like Grimm's size. Jiriel is horrified by the comparison. Grimm, predictably, finds this extremely satisfying. The brief argument that follows is not really about the transformation. It is about dignity, and whether Jiriel has any remaining. He eventually produces a smaller form, presents it to Lloyd with theatrical ceremony, and receives approximately zero acknowledgement, because Lloyd has already moved on to the next item of interest. The divine sorcery question is being organized. Jiriel, as the angel now bound to Lloyd, can grant passes to others, allowing them to use divine sorcery without requiring a full ritual. This is normally a significant privilege. Lloyd arranges it for Rin and Babylon with the same energy he would use to hand someone a useful tool. The process is noted. It will matter later. On Lordest Island, the post-battle rhythm is establishing itself. The people of Lordest are rowdy, hierarchy-minded, and deeply loyal to whoever is strongest, which, in this case, means they are deeply loyal to Lloyd by default. Two figures from the island arrive at the palace, Talia and Crow, the acknowledged leaders of Lordest's people. They carry with them the particular energy of people who have seen Lloyd do something unreasonable and are now reconciling their understanding of the world around that experience. Crow's ability, which causes others to obey his spoken commands, makes him distinctive. He is a complicated presence, someone whose power has caused real harm and who carries that weight carefully. Meanwhile, the wooden doll, Lloyd, apparently at some point off-screen, constructed a wooden replica of himself capable of handling simple automatic tasks. The palace staff's reactions on discovering a second Lloyd wandering the halls doing chores while the real Lloyd is elsewhere is one of those understated comedy moments that works precisely because nobody reacts with anything more dramatic than mild confusion. Jiriel finds the doll fascinating. He should not touch it, and he is told not to touch it, and this information lands about as well as expected. The ghoul hunt forms up. Lloyd, having spent his first day with divine sorcery in a paradise where he was mostly experimenting with Jiriel's feathers and reading the structure of the magic at the subatomic level, wants to test it properly in field conditions. Undead ghouls are the perfect subject because divine sorcery, specifically purification class magic, is precisely what it was designed to counter. He invites Tao, an adventurer who attended their Lordist gathering, to join them. Tao accepts with a speed that suggests her reasons for coming are not entirely professional. The Great Dean Bridge, linchpin of east-to-west traffic in a capital city, is where the sightings have been centered. It is busy, populated, full of life. Not the obvious location for a ghoul den. But the ghouls are not above the bridge. They are below it, in the sewers. Lloyd uses a divine spell called Helios, a purification class sorcery that emits steady cleansing light, to illuminate the tunnels and scour them of filth simultaneously. What the sewer smells like before Helios and after Helios are described as completely different experiences. The air clears. The water runs bright. Even Tao's ability to channel chi, normally difficult in a grimy and airless space, comes back fully. This is not an offensive spell. It is a support spell. And in the sewers, it is more useful than most weapons. The ghoul hunt begins in earnest, and Silpha turns what was a professional exercise into something else entirely when Tao proposes a contest. Whoever eliminates the most ghouls wins a date with Lloyd. This is announced clearly in front of everyone. Silpha's immediate response is to reject the premise. Her second response, once the contest has already started, is to start winning it. The score runs neck and neck through the whole sequence. Both Tao and Silpha are formidable in ways that are distinct and interesting to watch. Tao uses her chi-channeling martial style, fluid and powerful. Silpha, armed with the Luxo weapons Lloyd is crafting on the fly and testing in real time, fights with a precision that her competition keeps underestimating because it is wrapped in such composed exterior. Rin is also fighting. She has been working on applying poison sorcery to Luxa, trying to give the weapons a damage over time effect. Her first attempt produces the wrong result. Her second attempt, guided by Lloyd's feedback, produces something genuinely interesting. A weapon that delivers a purifying effect that spreads like poison through an undead body, unraveling them from the point of contact outward. Lloyd is delighted. He explains the underlying logic as he works. Divine sorcery, originally designed purely to fight demons, was never optimized beyond that original purpose. Nobody had thought to combine its purifying nature with other frameworks. Lloyd has had it for approximately 1 day and is already expanding it in ways that its original architects never explored. The contest ends in a dead heat. All 3 competitors have the same score. 2 ghouls remain. The tension is genuinely funny. Then the action cuts away to somewhere else entirely. The church grounds, after hours, where a figure in pastoral robes is meeting with someone in the shadows. A body is found. A conversation is had about possession, about preparation, about the timing of something that is being called the day. A rosary, brand new and barely worn, is mentioned in passing. Neither party is identified clearly, but the sense of something wrong, something patient and deliberate, is unmistakable. Back in the sewers, the final 2 ghouls are dealt with as the episode ends. The hunt was a success. Lloyd has field data on divine sorcery. Rin has made real progress. The contest remains unresolved. And in the church above the city, something has been building quietly long before any of them arrived. The contest score and the mystery in the church above sit alongside each other in the final minutes, and the contrast is intentional. Below, something light, competitive, human, the kind of energy that the cast generates when they are at their best together. Above, patience, preparation, a plan that has been running for longer than anyone on Lloyd's side knew to look. The episode holds both things without resolving either, which is the right choice. The hunt was successful, but something in the city has been watching Lloyd's group from the beginning, and what it saw today did not change its timeline at all. Episode 16. The final 2 ghouls from the sewer hunt reveal themselves to be something far more complicated than the others. The first sign is what happens when Lloyd's group tries to engage. Their limbs stop responding correctly. Movements they did not choose. Positions their bodies fall into without instruction. It is deeply disorienting, and the episode takes its time letting the audience sit in that confusion alongside the characters before the explanation arrives. Lloyd is the one who identifies it first. Spinal threads. Incredibly fine filaments of maniformed material, almost invisible, extended from the ghoul's body through the air and making contact with the nervous systems of anyone they touch. The threads do not just interfere with motor control, they are also woven around the ghoul itself as a defense, carrying encoded evasion responses directly in the material, allowing it to react to threats faster than thought. This is not a standard ghoul. This is a walking weapon that has retained the full capabilities of whoever it was in life. And who it was in life is the second revelation of the episode. Lloyd, piecing together the evidence, names it Civil War. A figure from history, not legend exactly, but the kind of account that gets passed down because of how impossible it seemed. A person called the Neuron Blighted, born with an ability that produced endless spinal thread from mana, who was sent by someone in authority into an actual armed conflict to end it, not as a soldier, but as a walking force of nature, unable to control what they were doing, tearing through everyone around them, friend and foe alike, shot through the heart, and continuing to move on reflex, eventually stopped only by destroying the cliff they stood on and sending them into the sea. They continued struggling as they sank. The team, Silpha, Tau, and Run, fights the ghoul with everything they have. The tactics evolve quickly. Understand the trick, work around it, find the opening. Ren's contribution is the turning point, and it is one of this season's better character moments. Her neurotoxin, delivered precisely through an application of mana focus she has been refining, does not work on an undead body the way it would on a living one. But the spinal threads that animate this ghoul have a direct connection to whatever nervous system memory they carry. Paralyze that, and the automatic reflexes lose their anchor. The window opens. The fight is won. The ghoul, post-battle, is revealed to be something more specific than a simple undead. A wraith, a spirit from someone who died badly, has taken up residence in Civil War's preserved body. It can speak. It remembers things. Lloyd, who should by any reasonable measure be done for the day, responds to this discovery with immediate fascination and an invitation. Come with me. I need to study how this works. The wraith is stunned. Nobody has spoken to it like that in its entire existence. This is the episode's second half, and it is quiet and unexpected. The wraith tells its story, not in a dramatic monologue, but in the fragmented way people describe things they have had no practice putting into words. A life that was simply bad from the beginning. A death that offered no resolution. The discovery that a wraith's possession ability, while real, only worked on people with weak enough spirits to be overrun, which meant revenge, the one thing the wraith wanted, was always out of reach. Its existence had been a long sequence of finding how little power it had, until someone found Civil War's body, saw its potential, and gave it away without wanting anything back. That someone is referred to as Master. A figure who found the preserved body, recognized that both the body and the wraith had suffered without anyone caring, and simply handed the body over. When the wraith asked what Master wanted in exchange, Master said nothing. Use it however you like. What followed was, apparently, the settling of scores. But after the scores were settled, there was nothing. No destination. No purpose that had been planned past the moment of revenge. And Master said something then. Something as ordinary as a greeting, the kind of thing anyone says when someone comes home. That turned out to mean everything. That word, that single ordinary welcome, built the wraith's entire reason to keep existing around itself. The wraith has been loyal to this Master ever since. The fight against Lloyd's group today was not aggression. It was protection. The wraith, sensing in Lloyd's mana something that registered as a genuine threat to its Master, responded accordingly. The spinal thread that briefly made contact during the fight gave the wraith a direct read on Lloyd's reserves, and what it felt in that fraction of a second was the kind of despair that leaves you frozen. It describes the sensation plainly. It was too much. How can a person have that much mana? Lloyd listens to all of this without interruption. The wraith, still inside Civil War's battered body, watches this prince absorb its history with the focused attention of someone solving a problem, and then watches the problem resolve into the simplest possible response. Your experience is extraordinary, and I want to understand it, and I think you should come with me. The wraith, recounting this, names the sensation Lloyd gave it when their spinal thread briefly made contact earlier in the fight. Despair. A wall of mana so enormous that touching it felt like looking into something bottomless. But Lloyd did not notice, or did not mind. And now he is offering a hand. The wraith is quietly overwhelmed. In the church above, the situation has escalated. The figure in the pastor's robes, the one Babylon noticed before, the one whose rosary was conspicuously pristine, has engaged Babylon directly. This fight is one-sided in a way that is disturbing precisely because it is so calm. The pastor moves without apparent effort. He is not frustrated or threatened. He is interested. He grabs Babylon and talks about possession, about increasing security, about the day approaching. Babylon fights back with Purification class Divine Sorcery, Glow, the simplest cleansing spell, and fires it at the pastor again and again. 30 shots. No change. No guilt in the man to surface, no darkness to illuminate. Either his conscience is clean or it is iron. The episode ends on two notes. Lloyd, processing everything that has happened in the sewer, gives the wraith a small capsule, a divine spell called Luma Maxima. compressed into physical form, to be used when the time is right. If suffering becomes unbearable, or when whatever keeps the wraith tied to this world has finally resolved, the wraith takes it without protest. There is something tender and precise about the gesture. And the pastor, having subdued Babylon, speaks quietly about timing, about a certain festival approaching, about how nothing that has happened today changes anything that is coming. He is patient. He has been patient for a long time. Episode 17. Babylon is nearly killed. That is the flat fact of the episode's opening, and it does not soften with distance. He fought the mysterious pastor with everything he had. Flexibility that allows him to twist his body past normal anatomical limits to avoid fatal blows, the ability to release compressed force through his joints, purification class, divine sorcery, fired repeatedly at close range. And it was not enough. The pastor, whoever he is, regenerates damage instantly. His physical abilities are a step beyond anything in Babylon's frame of reference. And what makes it more unsettling than a conventional defeat is the pastor's manner. He is not trying particularly hard. He is not afraid. He is not even very interested, except in a clinical way, examining what Babylon can do and filing the information for future use. The fight ends badly, and Lloyd arrives too late to prevent the worst of it. What he arrives in time for is the aftermath. Babylon barely conscious, the pastor gone, and Escher running through the rain trying to find help she has been told not to ask for. She gets to the Adventurers Guild. She wants to bring fighters back, but she heard Babylon's instruction, do not call for help, because everyone who comes will die, and she cannot unknow it. She does not call for fighters. She leaves the father with the guild for care, apologizes for not explaining more, and walks back into the rain alone. What Lloyd arrives in time for is the aftermath. Babylon barely conscious, the pastor gone, and Escher running through the rain trying to find help she has been told not to ask for. The church is compromised. The people inside it are in danger. And Lloyd's response, fast, thorough, and methodical in a way that the episode documents carefully, is to move everyone. 3 days pass. The episode uses an illustrated summary to walk through what Lloyd arranged while Babylon was unconscious. Babylon taken to Lordist for treatment, a trusted contact keeping watch over the church in case of infiltration, a report filed to the Adventurers Guild, and a separate notification to Prince Albert. Escher and the father moved to safety. The nuns of the church relocated to the castle. The reconstruction work on the church itself is assigned to the Lordist crews, who do it enthusiastically and without being asked twice, because that is who they are. All of this is organized, quiet, and effective. Lloyd has no gift for ceremony. He has a very developed gift for logistics when the problem is clear. Babylon wakes up on the 4th day, barely ahead of Lloyd's scheduled forced awakening experiments. The reunion is warm and slightly chaotic, and then Babylon passes out again immediately, because Escher, who has been singing purification sorcery over him for long stretches while he was unconscious, runs to his side, and the relief is so sudden that she faints. It is the most human possible way for a tense arc beat to resolve. The investigation reconvenes. Lloyd wants to understand what they found, who this pastor is, what his abilities are, and what he was doing in the church. The discussion of his powers raises interesting questions. He used Luxa without a ritual, which means he had a pass, which means he was either one of the 12 bishops who oversee the central church, or closely connected to one. The purification magic had no effect on him. Babylon's assessment is that the pastor genuinely did not feel guilty, not that he suppressed guilt, but that it was not there. Either his convictions are absolute, or he operates by a moral framework different enough from the standard that standard purification cannot touch it. The inner garden of the church was the consistent point of return. The pastor kept coming back there. Escher, piecing together her own observations, mentions that he once said her singing always made him sick, not occasionally, but always. Always implies he was there often, listening, and had been for a long time. Lloyd lifts one flagstone in the garden and finds a door. The basement laboratory is the discovery that recontextualizes everything. What was built under the church, quietly, over what must have been years, is not a sorcery lab. It is an alchemical research space, and its purpose was synthesis, the cultivation and combination of biological material from different living organisms. The creatures they fought in the sewers were not real ghouls. They were chimeras, manufactured bodies, assembled from pieces. And the research extended further. Among the living things still present in the lab is a young woman whose body is half human, half lamia. She did not choose this. Her memory of who she was before is gone. The moral weight of this lands heavily, and the episode does not rush it. The confrontation with the lamia is defused by Escher, who goes to her against everyone's better judgment and simply starts singing. Not divine sorcery. She has burned through her mana, just her voice, for hours, all night, because it is the only thing she knows how to give. And the Lamia hears it, remembers it, recognizes it as the voice she used to hear through the ceiling in the darkness, the thing that kept whatever was human in her from being entirely consumed. The two of them meet properly for the first time, though they have been neighbors and suffering for longer than either of them knew. The apology is mutual and very quiet. Lloyd collects the laboratory notes before anything is destroyed. He gives them to the young woman, who is given the name Lami, because she needs one, alongside a choice. Discard the data entirely and put it behind her, or use it as the only real lead toward understanding what was done to her body and how it might be changed. He does not tell her which to choose. She chooses to keep it and to try. The episode ends not on the laboratory, but on the bishops. Katerina, following up on the investigation, has traced something significant. The pastor's lost rosary, found in the lab, is solid gold. There are only 12 people authorized to carry solid gold rosaries: the Pope and the 11 bishops who oversee the Central Church. Whoever this pastor is, he is not a rogue or an impersonator from outside the faith. He is one of the 12 most powerful people within it. The Great Advent Festival, at which the Pope and all 12 bishops will be present, is 3 days away. Episode 18. The discovery that one of the 12 bishops is almost certainly the mastermind behind the Chimera laboratory changes the shape of everything. Prince Albert is brought in. The scope of what was found, a years-long, systematic program of synthesis experiments conducted beneath a church, using living people as subjects, all apparently in service of some plan that was scheduled to culminate at the Great Advent Festival, is laid out carefully. What they know is serious. What they do not know is more serious. The enemy can change his form. The description Babylon provided is the only likeness they have, and it may already be outdated. The Central Church, contacted about the incident, has responded defensively. They refuse to take the accusation seriously, and Albert's report through official channels is met with resistance. The Church's institutional response is to protect its own reputation before investigating the claim. This is frustrating, but not surprising. It simply means that official resources are not coming. The people in this room are what there is. The plan that emerges is constrained, but workable. At the festival, the bishops and the Pope will be separated into different groups for a so-called security inspection, each group accompanied by a member of Lloyd's trusted circle. The real purpose is to watch the bishops closely. If the shape-shifting mastermind is among them, being in proximity to people like Silpha and Tau in Babylon, all of whom have experienced him directly and have the instincts to recognize something wrong, gives them the best chance of identifying him before he can act. The goal is not to expose him publicly. The goal is to prevent the Pope's assassination, which is the most probable target. Prince Albert acknowledges the difficulty honestly. The Adventurers Guild cannot move against the Church without evidence. Wanted posters with a likeness are useless against a shapeshifter, and even canceling the festival would only delay the problem, not resolve it. Because if the enemy has truly infiltrated the Central Church, the Pope is no safer at any other time. The decision is to proceed, to watch, and to be ready to act on personal judgment. While the larger strategy forms, there are smaller things happening. Lami, settling in at Lordist with support from Galilea and the others, is adjusting to the idea that she has a future, that the data Lloyd handed her is a tool, not a burden. There is warmth in the Lordist community's response to her. Galilea, who has her own history with being something other than simply human, does not treat Lami's situation as strange. She treats it as one more thing to solve together. Saria, Lloyd's musical prodigy sister, arrives at the church to practice for the recital, and has a scene with Escher that is quietly important. Escher, still shaken from what she experienced, tells Saria she wants to perform at the festival after all, not because it is expected, not entirely because she loves singing, though she does, but because what happened, the attack, the fear, the basement, the pastor's contempt for her voice, has left something in her that she will not be able to carry unless she faces it. The performance is the only form of confrontation available to her. Saria, who does not always track the emotional context of conversations but hears everything in terms of music, responds with characteristic directness. Good, then let's make it count. The rosary question, which was left open, produces a specific answer in the episode's second half. Giriel, who is the one who granted divine sorcery passes to people at Lloyd's arrangement, clarifies the chain of authority. He granted the pass to the Pope, Gaetan, and Gaetan chose 11 people he trusted to extend it further. The 11 bishops each hold passes independent of ritual. The ability to cast Luxa without a ritual is therefore not merely a power that implies high rank. It specifically identifies someone within Gaetan's circle of absolute trust. The realization that follows is uncomfortable. If the mastermind is among the 11 bishops, then Gaetan himself has been either deceived or compromised. And if Gaetan is the source of the problem, the situation is far worse than anything they have planned for. Lloyd, characteristically, does not appear to find this particularly alarming. He has been thinking through this possibility longer than anyone else in the room has known it was a possibility. He does not share what he is thinking yet. He does, however, quietly arrange something with Saria, a conversation that the episode shows only from the outside, a word exchanged, an understanding reached. Saria agrees to something. The laboratory is sealed and cleared. The evidence is documented. Lami keeps her research notes. The church overhead, repaired by the Lord Dost crews with more enthusiasm than precision, looks normal from the outside. No one walking past would know what was underneath it. The episode ends from the mastermind's perspective, a brief scene that places him clearly now as a bishop within the church hierarchy, close to power. He receives the news that the underground facility has been discovered and destroyed. He is not particularly disturbed by this. A branch laboratory, useful but not essential. He recounts, almost to himself, the events that led to Civil War's end: a body found, an arm severed, the Wraith's final choice to use the Luma Maxima. He notes that he may have underestimated something. There was one encounter whose source he has not fully traced. Something in the capital that reacted faster than anything he had accounted for. It does not concern him yet. The time has come. The festival will proceed. And there is nothing, he is certain, that can stop what he has set in motion. The rosary question, approached from another angle, opens something important. Giriel, asked to clarify how divine sorcery authority works, explains the chain. He gave a pass to Pope Gaetan, and Gaetan extended that trust to 11 people of his choosing. Anyone who used Luxa without performing a ritual was confirming they hold one of those passes, confirming they belong to Gaetan's most intimate circle of trust. The pool of suspects is now 12 people at most, and probably fewer. This narrows things dramatically. Even Archbishop Roselius, the most skeptical of the church contacts during the investigation, finds herself resisting the conclusion. These are not people who build laboratories underneath cathedrals, she insists.